We have this idea that they fall because we run a spiral that allows us to rest on top of them, then we drop our weight. And that is absolutely one of the ways. But you can actually throw from underneath. If I come in here, watch him, he's being solid. So I come in underneath here and I go boop and hit him with that. Boop. Now, if I don't change anything and he's trying to be strong, you'll notice it goes up, hits that structure, and then he reorganizes. You can watch the wave hit him, and what's it hitting? It's hitting the floor through his structure. Bam. That's where I ran into him. So you can actually watch the wave go boink and bounce back as he reorganizes. So what happens if, just as it hits the top, I move it, so that when it bounces back, it falls into a hole. You see him? He just totally went off. I never pushed down on him. Okay? Boop. Boop. Boop, move. He's already gone. Okay. There was no push on top. I did it from underneath. So that's actually what I'm doing here is when I come up underneath him and I float him, he's actually using me for support now. If this weren't here, he'd be back there. So once I get there, I take the support away and he falls into the hole. I don't have to push down. I set up a dependency and then I stop holding him up. So I'm moving on the seam. So that's neutral. And then once that runs up, everything back here drops and he falls into the hole. And that's why I can actually do this very fast, which is touch. As he comes in, he's going to try and be strong. Grab this time. Touch. The martial version of this is to not step back. The old days, they didn't drop you into a hole. They put something in the hole and dropped you into it. Okay? We usually skip that because it's not so fun. If you were doing that all the time, you'd have like 6 psycho guys in the dojo who thought that was really interesting. So instead, I run the spiral and then I make a hole and just allow it to fall, him to fall into the hole. This is very typical. Just understand that in the old days, these things did this. You know, Kaitenage. It was all strikes, okay? You read stories about Shioda Sensei during the war, World War II, of course. Okay? Just thought I'd mention it. Okay? And he and a buddy got cornered in a bar in Shanghai by some Chinese guys. This is not a sport contest. These guys are going to kill these Japanese guys. They were not, as you might imagine, very popular in China at the time. So these guys are going to take them out. So the first guy through the door, Shioda had a broken bottle and that went in the guy's face. The next guy came in, threw a kick, and he broke the guy's leg. Okay? So we're not talking Nikkyo and Sankyo here. You know, in a combat, it's not going to look like that. Those are ways to train various things. Some people say that the wrist techniques that we do in Aikido are actually about stretching out the connective tissue to make your internal power stuff work better, because you need a lot of resiliency in here. There's a lot of reasons, but don't mistake the basic techniques of Aikido for what happens in combat, because it's not going to look like that. And it's funny because you see people going, oh, yeah, we don't train that. What are you doing every time you do a ski? Every time you do a ski with your sword? Well, that's the broken bottle, except the broken bottle is just a lot more sort of earthy application of it. It's not training anymore. But you've been training to ski since you started Aikido. That break that he did on the leg, if you probably looked at it carefully, and of course I wasn't there, so I didn't see exactly which technique he did, but a lot of the stuff we do sets that up and then we choose not to do it. It's there, we just choose not to do it because it's too injurious for your partner. Okay? but you're actually training to set it up. And the only thing you'd have to do is do a little bit of martial application work to take what you're doing in your beautiful flowy Aikido and learn how to put it into a little more structure, okay? Then all of a sudden, I mean, this thing we do with the punch, that, guess what? That's a kick, kick, well. That leg lock, night lock, go higher than that. There we go. So do that. Whoom. And then try and stay up. Look, when you stay up, I want to break your leg. Okay. That drop there, if that drop happens here, but this can't go down, what's happening to his knee? If you have some structure here, that release of the hip takes this forward and this back. If I just dropped into that and rotated, that knee starts to go. So we've been practicing that. No, not this time. I want the punch again. We've been practicing the mechanics of that for a long time. Just a different application. When I do it on the arm bends. Do it on the leg goes the other way. Something that's nice and harmonious on the arm locks the leg. Does that make sense? So you've been practicing, you may not have known it. Okay? So remember that Arimi Tenkan we were doing that everybody didn't want to do. Come in here and grab. Now I'm doing the Arimi Tenkan. So I come in underneath him, I set up that dependency, and as I move, I take it away and I let him fall. Okay, that's what we're headed towards here. So once again, I want to make sure that you're underneath here, just so you understand the concept. Come up and hit him with this. Boom. Boom. Now, if I hit him with that and he just falls over, there's no rebound. I mean, if the guy's not trying to maintain some structure, you can't rebound off it. That's why it's hard to do this stuff on Systema guys. You hit them with this, they just move. There's no rebound. Okay? So it's actually hard to get them to do some of this to stuff, to work on them. But anyone who's trying to be strong, there's that. So the moment I touch, I move it. They'll follow it down just because of that connection. Go ahead and try that, and then we'll get into the big movement. The quality of connection. I did it slow. His description was, wow, that's kind of creepy. It is. It's a weird thing. On some level, it feels okay. As human beings actually like being connected. We like connecting. The quality of this touch here should not be different than if you were touching a toddler. Okay? You don't smush the toddler. You ever had to hold a squirmy toddler in your arms? You can't let the kid fall out of your arms on the pavement, but at the same time, you can't squish the kid. So there's this constant touch that has to be fairly lightweight, and yet you're keeping control of them. That's actually the quality of the touch we want here. If you're too glommy, you actually make them tight. You know what it's like to get manhandled by a partner. Even if you were inclined to be relaxed initially, they virtually create tension in you and fear. If I scare the pants off my partner, that might be useful for certain things like destroying his will to resist, but it also tends to make people tense. I might want to do that because sometimes working with somebody, making them tense, makes stuff work better. We talked about that. Okay? But a lot of times, if you're doing Kihon Waza stuff, and you're manhandling, you're just making it harder for yourself. You got a guy who might be willing to move, and you're already manhandling the guy, and then he gets pissed. So the quality of this touch is very gentle. So what you're technically doing, and if you've been on the mat with Sensei at all, have you ever heard him talk about wrinkling the skin here, where he talks about this rotation, or this, and the skin bunches? Okay? What's happening there? Okay? What's just under the skin? Fascia, which is loaded with nerves. So it's much the same thing. Okay? So you have the fascia layer, and then the fascia, inside the fascia is the muscles, and the muscles are supposed to slide inside that fascia. And that's one of the things that deep tissue people do, is make sure that's freed up. Because if you start getting adhesions, the muscle will not slide. You lose range of motion, and then you start getting muscle pulls because the stuff isn't being able to slide like it's supposed to. It's supposed to be elastic, and the muscles are moving within this layer. Okay? What's interesting about this is that this is what Sensei was talking about when he said, oh, it's on the surface. What's on the surface? The nerves. Okay? Your ligaments, tendons, and fascia, okay, are loaded with nerves that are constantly sending signals to the brain about their tension level, how stretched am I, how tight am I, what's happening. The brain receives, every second, the brain receives about 250,000 of these signals. And you process almost all of them unconsciously. Okay? You don't think about them, you're not even aware of them. Okay? The number of signals that your brain is capable of processing consciously is 40 out of that 250,000. So when you start to connect in here on that level to the brain, you're talking to the brain on a level it's not even aware of. It doesn't know how to evaluate what's going on. When you glom somebody, you get to the muscular skeletal level, and their brain has no problem processing that. That's actually a set of signals that your brain does process. So if I get in here and start doing this, how much trouble did he have countering that? Almost instantly. The moment he felt this going on, he knew how to organize his body to fight it. But see, if I can stay on this other level, if I go in a little bit, the skin's bunching. If I rotate just a little bit, it bunched a little more. When that whole thing bunched, you feel it, that little twist? I just connected to that fascia layer, and now if I move it, he'll be moving before he quite understands what's going on. That's why he said creepy, because he's gone. I came in here, and when I went up into you, I'm stretching that, making a tighter connection with that. Can you feel it sliding? You guys can't see it because of the gi, but I'm actually kind of going in here and sliding that up and getting that little bunch. I'm connecting, and here I'm going. You feel it? I'm taking the skin here and sliding it. When I do that, I've just connected to that whole set of nerves that are down in the fascia. And then if I give it a little pop, gosh, he feels that. Yeah. And then when I move it, he stays with it. You see him going off balance? So I connect here. Now, if he doesn't want to go, be strong. When I come up here, you see him do a backflow? I tried to go this way, and he energized more that way. That's what I release over here. And now he's going with it. You see him just drift? So if I can do it a little faster, he'll be going down before he even understood what was going on. He's just headed to the floor. And it does feel kind of creepy because your brain's going, wait a minute, do that again. Sensei used to do stuff like this to me, and it would be just like, okay, I wasn't ready. And then he'd go do it to me again. And I could never quite figure out why it was working because I didn't feel him doing anything to me that should produce that. Once you understand what he's doing, you understand why it works. But if you didn't have any idea, it's like, why the hell am I sticking to his hands when he's just... Because I never took the hands away. This isn't the hands. If I do it with the hands, I went in, connected, and then I broke connection. And he doesn't follow it. What takes him down is that the up of the hands is still going in. This is always going in. So he feels, be strong. He feels this in, and he's already organizing against that, and the rest of it's back here. So it's still going up into him, and when I bend my knees, his brain's still telling him I'm there supporting him. This isn't taking away the hands. You feel it? There's an up, and then I balance it with the down, and then when I just change the balance slightly where there's more down than up, he starts following that down. But I was always going up inside it. If you do this with your arms, you'll break connection. The up is here, the down's back here. And he just follows it, and he's not sure why. It's because I'm talking to a different part of his whole brain system than he quite understands. And yet the brain actually likes it. It's like when you connect in there, the brain is getting information. It's just getting information from a source that he's not conscious of. So the brain, once it connects on that level, actually wants to keep the connection, which is why when it moves, it follows it. Does that make sense? I'm not doing this to him. I'm connecting and moving me. And he'll stay with it because the brain wants information. When you give it the information, then it knows what to do with it. So I'm sitting here saying, I'm touching him in such a way that his brain's going, there's a connection there. There should be information for me. And then when I move it, it keeps going to look for the information it wanted. And pretty soon he's falling. Okay? That's my take on it. Until somebody teaches me a better way to look at it, I'm sticking with it. If you mess up somebody's structure and then you set up a situation where they are dependent on you, right now he's dependent on me for the support. He could stay here all day if I stay here. So then I set up the dependency and take away the support. So if you watch how I just dropped, it wasn't the hand that dropped. I didn't come up here and drop the hand to make him fall. See, you were nice about that. Yeah. Don't be so damn nice. He just reorganizes again because I took it away. All of a sudden, I'm not talking to his brain. But see, if I set this up where this is in and coming underneath him and he's using it for support, if I drop back here first, he follows it. So I come up here and then I drop. And this drops, and the hand's the last thing that drops, not the first thing. Everybody tries to throw the partner, the hand will drop first. See, that sets him. But if I can set up a situation where he's depending on me, if I drop first, he's already going down. Then the hand falls at the end. Does that make sense? Right? I'll give you a little throwaway. This was a thing I got from Howard Popkins Sensei when he was here the last time, or at my dojo the last time. Because I asked him about this whole thing of dropping. And he says, actually, there's 2 ways to drop, which I had never heard anybody say before. He says, if you have them stacked on you, just move. If you have them leaning on you for support, when you drop, you start with you out to the hand. So I drop, then the shoulder drops, then the elbow drops, and the last thing that drops is the hand. So if you look at it, it looks like this. It says if you have them stacked on themselves, just move. Then it's the opposite. The hand drops, shoulder drops, and then body drops. So the fall is that way, starting here and coming back to here. This is cool, because 35 years of Aikido, nobody ever told me this, yet it makes real sense, okay? So when you think about dropping, on most of these right here, he's using me for support now, so that resets him. This drops first, then everything else drops, okay? So when we're doing this, it's the same thing. I entered in, I came in underneath him, I set up the dependency, and watch what drops. Not my hand, don't see that. I drop first and the hands follow it down. If you do that way, you're just taking the support right up from underneath him. He thinks I'm holding him up and I'm dropping back here. Later, it's really small. He's gone already. And that's when you can do stuff like this. This went over, fell to me. This happened to be coming up when it did it. No more effort than that. And he's hosed. We're not doing that one. I know you're happy about it. Urimi Tenkan, drop, 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 and let your hands fall. Don't push your hands down.
Thank you very much.
I can get him to fall by turning this over here. But remember what we said about this being my problem? You see that line? If I don't take this across the center line, that's still a problem for me. So if I'm too small about this, it might be working, but I didn't solve that problem. So think about, if this is the line of attack, take this hand across that line before you drop it. Okay? So you notice the moment I touched, he's going that way. He can't reach me with that hand. Boom. Try and reach me with the other hand. He's got to pull this away to reach me. And by that time, it's falling. Okay? So that's just a mechanical issue. It'll work if you just turn it over. But I didn't catch that hip, which means that can still hit me. But if I take this in and go across him, now he can't bring that in to hit me. Opponent? Okay? Which happens to be at this point, what footwork? So, since I'm in the South here, I could say, ¿Dónde está el Rimi Tenkan? Because it's not evident. And the other thing is, when I told you, look at the feet first, then you look at what? The hands. So what was the starting position of my hand? Palm up. If I let him grab me palm down, which a number of you are, you can't rotate that way very well. I got this much rotation left. That much. That's as far as it'll go. I have tons of rotation that way, but that's not the way I'm going. So if you want to do the one I'm doing, he needs to grab you when your palm is up so that when you turn it over, you get the whole spiral. So I look around and the footwork has disappeared, and then people are actually trying to figure out how to run that spiral from a position where you don't have that spiral to do. Remember Cool Hand Luke? What we have here is a failure to communicate. Okay? Concentrate again. Irimi Tenkan. Palm up. Just come in and grab. Yeah, but not with your face. That gets socked. Come in. There. There. That's much more balanced. Now I actually am not going to be tempted to smack your nose. When you come in like this, it's almost like I have to really restrain myself. Okay, so you come in here. I'm turning and I'm turning this over as we're doing it. Okay?